Here's the truth that nobody talks about at school. According to the Federal Reserve, the top 1% of Americans own more wealth than the entire bottom 90% combined. Let that sink in for a moment. Not 50%, not 70%, the entire bottom 90%. Now, here's the part that makes this even more interesting. Most of those wealthy people didn't inherit their money. A study by Fidelity Investments found that 88% of millionaires are self-made. They started from nothing, just like you and me. So what's the difference? According to a Career Builder survey, roughly 78% of full-time workers in America live paycheck to paycheck. In the UK, the Money and Pension Service reports nearly 11.5 million people have less than £100 in savings. These aren't lazy people. These aren't unintelligent people. Many of them are hardworking, dedicated, and talented. So then why? I'll tell you. But first, pause for just a second and think about your own situation. When was the last time you checked how much you spent last month versus how much you actually saved? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, don't worry. That's exactly why you're watching this video. Because by the end, you'll have a plan to fix it. Keep watching.
Here's a truth that most financial gurus never tell you. Your brain, the most powerful computer in the known universe, was not designed to build wealth. In fact, it was designed to do the exact opposite. Think about it. Our brains evolved over 200,000 years of human history. For most of that time, survival meant one thing: get resources now. Eat the food now. Store fat now, because tomorrow there might be no food. This is called the present bias, and it's hardwired into every single human brain. It means our brains are naturally programmed to value things we can have right now far more than things we might get in the future. Psychologists at Harvard did a study where they asked people to choose between getting $100 today or $150 in 1 month. Most people, even though $150 is 50% more, chose the $100 today. 50% more money in just 30 days, and people still said, "Give me the smaller amount now." That's your present bias talking. And here's the scary part. Every single time you choose to spend money instead of invest it, that ancient prehistoric part of your brain is winning the argument. The good news? You can reprogram it, and we're going to show you exactly how. But first, let me show you the experiment that changed everything we know about wealth and willpower. In 1972, a psychologist at Stanford University named Walter Mischel ran one of the most famous experiments in history. He sat young children, between 3 and 5 years old, in a room alone. On the table in front of them, he placed one single marshmallow. He told each child, "I'm going to leave the room for 15 minutes. If you can wait until I come back without eating this marshmallow, I will give you a second marshmallow as a reward." Then he left the room. Some kids ate the marshmallow immediately. Some waited a few minutes and then gave in. But some kids, not many, but some, waited the full 15 minutes and earned the second marshmallow. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Mischel followed those same children for decades afterward. The kids who waited for the second marshmallow, who chose delayed gratification over instant pleasure, went on to have higher test scores, better careers, healthier relationships, and significantly more wealth than the kids who ate it immediately. One marshmallow test at age 4 predicted financial success decades later. Now, before you think, "I'm just wired this way and there's nothing I can do," stop right there. Because more recent research shows that delayed gratification is a skill, not a personality trait you're born with. A skill you can learn and practice. And in just a few minutes, I'll show you exactly how. Okay, quick question, and I want you to be honest with yourself here. This is important. Think about the last time you got a raise at work, or a bonus, or any extra money. What did you do with it? Did you think, "Amazing, now I can upgrade my apartment, get a better car, eat at nicer restaurants"? Or did you think, Perfect. Now I can increase how much I'm investing each month. Be honest. If you're like most people, you probably did the first thing. And that's not a judgment. It's completely normal human behavior. It even has a name. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's one of the most dangerous and invisible wealth killers in the world. Here's how it works. Every time your income goes up, your spending goes up by exactly the same amount, sometimes even more. You earn more, you spend more. Your savings stay the same. You feel like you're making progress, but you're actually running on a treadmill. Sound familiar? If it does, you are not alone. This is one of the most common traps that keeps even high earners stuck in financial cycles they can't seem to break. The good news is, once you see this pattern clearly, you can break it. And that's exactly what we're going to do next. But first, let me show you the Joneses and why keeping up with them might be destroying your future.
Let me tell you about the Joneses. You've heard the phrase, keeping up with the Joneses, but do you know where it comes from? It's from a 1913 comic strip where a family constantly competes with their neighbor's lifestyle. Sound familiar? Because 112 years later, nothing has changed. If anything, it's gotten worse. Here's why. Social comparison is one of the most deeply wired human behaviors. Psychologist Leon Festinger called it social comparison theory in 1954. We constantly evaluate our lives by comparing them to the lives of people around us. And in the age of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, our comparison group isn't just our neighborhood anymore. It's the entire planet. Every time you scroll through social media and see someone's luxury vacation, brand new car, or designer outfit, your brain registers it as a benchmark for where you should be. Here's the devastating math. Studies show that people who spend heavily on visible status goods, cars, clothes, gadgets, have significantly lower net worth than people with similar incomes who don't. Why? Because the people buying the flashiest things often have the least in savings. There's even a famous saying by Thomas Stanley, author of The Millionaire Next Door. I am not impressed with what people own, but I am impressed with what they achieve. The Joneses? Most of them are broke. Their car is leased, their house is mortgaged to the limit, their lifestyle is built on debt. Don't keep up with them, outgrow them quietly.
Okay, here's where we get into some numbers. And I promise, these numbers will either excite you or make you feel slightly sick. Maybe both. Let's talk about your daily coffee. A typical specialty coffee, latte, cappuccino, flat white, costs about $5. That doesn't sound like much, right? Let's do the math. $5 per day times 365 days equals $1,825 per year. Now, what if instead of spending that $1,825 every year, you invested it? The S&P 500, which is the index tracking America's 500 largest companies, has returned an average of approximately 10% per year over the last century. That's the historical long-term average. So here's what happens if you invest just $150 per month, which is actually less than that daily coffee costs per month, at 10% annual return. In 10 years, you'd have approximately $30,600. In 20 years, approximately $114,500. In 30 years, approximately $339,000. Your total contributions over 30 years? Just $54,000. But compound interest turned that $54,000 into $339,000. That's $285,000 in free money earned purely by waiting. This is called compound interest, and Albert Einstein allegedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. Now, I'm not telling you to never drink coffee again. That's not the point. The point is, small, consistent decisions create enormous differences over time. Stay with me, because next, I'm going to show you just how powerful this really is.
Let me explain compound interest in the simplest way possible. Imagine you have a snowball. You put it at the top of a snowy hill and let it roll. In the first few seconds, it's tiny, barely picking up any snow. But as it rolls, it gets a little bigger, and a bigger snowball picks up more snow, which makes it even bigger, which picks up even more snow. By the time it reaches the bottom of the hill, that tiny snowball has become something enormous. That is exactly how compound interest works. Here's a simple example. Let's say you invest $10,000 at a 10% annual return. Year 1, $10,000 becomes $11,000. You earned $1,000. Year 2, $11,000 becomes $12,100. You earned $1,100. Year 3, $12,100 becomes $13,310. You earned $1,210. Notice what's happening? The amount you earn keeps growing, even though you're not adding more money. That's because you're earning interest on your interest. By year 10, that $10,000 has grown to $25,937. By year 20, it's $67,275. By year 30, it reaches $174,494. You turn $10,000 into $174,000 without ever adding a single extra dollar. Here's the most important rule of compound interest. Time is the most powerful ingredient. Not how much you invest, but how early you start. A 25-year-old who invests $5,000 and never adds another penny will often end up with more money at 65 than a 35-year-old who invests $50,000. Let that sink in.
Let me tell you about Anna and Ben. Two best friends, same age at school, both got their first jobs at 22. Anna started investing $300 per month at age 25. She continued until age 65. Ben waited. He thought, I'll start next year, once I pay off this debt, once I get a better job. Then next year became the year after, and Ben finally started investing $300 per month at age 35. Same monthly amount, same 10% return. Who do you think had more money at age 65? Here are the actual numbers, fact-checked and calculated. Anna started at 25, contributed for 40 years, total invested $144,000. Final amount at 65, approximately $1,897,000. Ben started at 35, contributed for 30 years, total invested $108,000. Final amount at 65, approximately $678,000. Anna has nearly 3 times more money than Ben, but she only invested $36,000 more than Ben did in total contributions. The difference? 10 years of early start. That 10-year head start turned $36,000 in extra contributions into a $1.2 million difference. Now here's the question I need you to ask yourself honestly. Are you Anna or Ben right now? If you're Ben, don't panic, it's not too late. But every single day you wait costs you more than you can imagine. The best time to start investing was yesterday. The second best time is right now. And I'm going to show you exactly how coming up very soon. But first, we need to talk about the real enemy. Here's one of the most powerful psychological concepts in all of personal finance, and almost nobody talks about it. It's called the scarcity mindset. Psychologists Sendhil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir wrote an entire book about this called Scarcity, Why Having Too Little Means So Much. Their research found something shocking. When people feel like they don't have enough money, enough time, enough resources, their decision-making actually gets worse. Scarcity literally shrinks your mental bandwidth. Here's how it works in real life. When you're worried about money, your brain is so focused on the immediate crisis, how do I pay this bill, how do I cover rent, that you have less mental energy left for long-term thinking. So you make short-term decisions. You grab the payday loan because you need cash now, even though the interest rate is 300% per year. You skip the investment because you can't afford it, even though you just spent $200 on takeout this week. This creates a vicious cycle. Financial stress causes short-term thinking. Short-term thinking causes more financial stress. It's not weakness, it's neuroscience. The opposite, the abundance mindset, works just as powerfully, but in reverse. When you believe there is enough, when you believe your wealth can grow, you start making different decisions. Better decisions. Decisions that create more abundance.
The question is, which mindset are you running on right now? And more importantly, how do you switch?
Let's talk about why we spend. Because it's not just about money, it's about brain chemistry. When you see something you want, a new phone, a designer bag, a shiny new gadget, your brain releases a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is your brain's reward chemical. It's the same chemical released when you eat sugar, fall in love, or achieve a goal. And here's the cruel trick. Research shows the dopamine spike actually happens before you buy the thing. The anticipation of the reward is sometimes more pleasurable than the reward itself. That's why window shopping is so satisfying. That's why scrolling Amazon at midnight feels good even when you don't buy anything. Your brain is already getting the dopamine hit. And the moment you click buy, often the pleasure drops sharply. You feel what researchers call buyer's remorse. The thing arrives, you open it, and within a few days, it feels ordinary. This phenomenon is called hedonic adaptation. We adapt to our circumstances incredibly quickly. The new car that excited you in month 1 feels like just a car by month 6. Marketing companies know this. They spend billions of dollars understanding your brain's dopamine system and designing their products, websites, and advertisements to hijack it. The limited time offer, the only 3 left in stock, the buy now, pay later. All of it is engineered to trigger your ancient dopamine-hungry brain into acting before your rational mind can stop you. Now you know, and now you can fight back.
Let's talk about credit cards and debt, because this is where many people's financial lives quietly fall apart. Credit card companies are not your friend. They are extraordinarily profitable businesses, and their profits come almost entirely from one thing: the interest you pay when you can't pay your balance in full. Here's how the trap works. Let's say you put $5,000 on a credit card with a 20% annual interest rate, which is very common. You make only the minimum payment each month, which is typically around 2% of the balance, or about $100. At that rate, it would take you approximately 9 years and 8 months to pay off that $5,000 balance. And the total amount you'd pay? Nearly $11,000. You borrowed $5,000 and paid back $11,000. The bank earned $6,000 from you for the privilege of you spending money you didn't have. Now multiply that across millions of people carrying balances month after month, year after year. The average American household carries approximately $6,000 in credit card debt. At 20% interest, that costs around $1,200 per year, just in interest payments. That's $1,200 per year going straight to the bank, not to your future, not to investments, not to freedom. $1,200 per year invested at 10% return over 30 years would become approximately $217,000. Think about that. The debt that feels normal is costing you a potential $250,000. This is the invisible tax on poverty, and it's deliberately designed to keep you exactly where you are.
All right, let's stop for a second. We're at the halfway point of this video, and I want to make sure you're still with me, because what's coming next is where everything changes. But first, think about everything you've learned so far. You've learned that your brain is wired for instant gratification, that the scarcity mindset keeps you stuck in short-term decisions, that compound interest is mathematically magical, that debt is silently destroying your financial future, that social comparison is making you spend money you don't even have to impress people you don't even like. Now, here's my question for you, and I want you to answer this honestly in the comments below. What's the one spending habit you have that you know is costing your future self the most? Is it the daily coffee runs, the spontaneous online shopping, the takeout 3 times a week, the subscriptions you forgot you even have? Whatever it is, I want you to write it below, not because I'm judging you, but because the first step in changing any pattern is naming it clearly. Studies in behavioral psychology show that simply writing down a spending habit makes you 40% less likely to repeat it automatically. Just by naming it, you take away its power. So go ahead, write it in the comments. And while you're doing that, let's talk about what the wealthy actually do differently, because it's not what most people think. Ready? This next part is going to change how you see money forever.
Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which has sold over 40 million copies worldwide, explained the difference between the rich and everyone else in one simple framework. Rich people buy assets. Everyone else buys liabilities while thinking they're buying assets. What's the difference? An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. Stocks that pay dividends, a rental property that generates rent, a business that makes profit, an investment account that grows. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. A new car, which loses 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot, according to Carfax. A large mortgage on a home you can't afford. Consumer electronics on credit. Designer clothes. Here's the key insight that changed how millions of people think about money. The wealthy spend their money on things that make them more money. Then they use the proceeds of those investments to buy lifestyle goods if they want to. The non-wealthy spend first on lifestyle, on what makes them look successful. Then they wonder why they never feel financially successful. It's a subtle but devastating difference. Think about this. If you bought $10,000 worth of a broad market index fund 5 years ago, today it would be worth approximately $17,000 to $20,000, depending on exact timing. If you spent $10,000 on a car 5 years ago, it might be worth $4,000 to $6,000 today. Same $10,000, completely opposite results. Assets make you rich. Liabilities keep you poor. This is not complicated, but almost nobody actually lives by it.
Okay, here's where we shift from understanding the problem to building the solution. You need a system, not willpower, because willpower runs out. A system. The simplest and most tested budgeting framework in personal finance is the 50-30-20 rule. It was popularized by U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren in her book All You're Worth. Here's how it works. 50% of your take-home income goes to needs. These are non-negotiables: rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, transportation to work, insurance, minimum debt payments. 30% goes to wants. These are the things that make life enjoyable: dining out, entertainment, subscriptions, holidays, hobbies, clothes beyond basics. 20% goes to savings and investments. This is the most important bucket. This is where your future is built. Emergency fund, index funds, paying off high-interest debt faster. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. 20%? I can barely cover my bills. And that's a fair point. If you can't hit 20% right now, start with whatever you can do. Even 5% matters. Even $20 per month matters. The key behavioral insight here is this: pay yourself first. The moment your salary hits your account, before you pay anything else, transfer your savings amount automatically. Treat it like a bill you must pay. Why? Because if you wait to save what's left over at the end of the month, there will never be anything left over. Ever. Automate it, make it invisible, and watch what happens over time.
All right, let's get practical. You understand the psychology, you understand compound interest. Now, where should you actually put your money? I want to keep this simple, because the truth is, building wealth doesn't require complex strategies. It requires consistent, boring, simple habits. Here's your starter toolkit. Step 1. Build your emergency fund first. Before you invest a single penny, you need 3 to 6 months of essential expenses saved in a high-yield savings account. This is your financial safety net. Without it, one car breakdown or medical bill sends you straight back into debt, destroying everything you're building. Step 2. Maximize your employer pension match. If your employer matches your pension or 401k contributions, contribute at least enough to get the full match. This is literally free money, an instant 50% or 100% return on your investment. Never, ever leave this on the table. Step 3. Invest in low-cost index funds. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in history, has publicly stated that for most people, investing in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund and holding it long-term is the wisest investment strategy. Why? Because index funds give you ownership of hundreds of companies at once. If one company fails, others carry you. Over any 20-year period in S&P 500 history, the market has always been higher at the end than at the beginning. You don't need a financial genius, you need time and consistency. Start simple, start now, adjust as you grow.
Here's the most powerful idea in this entire video, and it's not about money at all, it's about identity. Psychologist and habit expert James Clear, in his best-selling book Atomic Habits, explains that the most powerful way to change your behavior is to change how you see yourself. He calls it identity-based habits. Here's the difference. Most people say, "I'm trying to save money." Wealthy people say, "I am an investor." Most people say, "I'm trying to be more disciplined." Wealthy people say, "I am someone who builds wealth." See the difference? When your identity is, "I'm trying to," every financial decision becomes a struggle, a sacrifice, something you have to force yourself to do. But when your identity is, "I am an investor," the decisions become automatic. An investor doesn't blow their monthly savings on an impulse purchase, not because they're using willpower, but because that's just not what investors do. Every time you make a financial decision that aligns with your identity as an investor, you cast a vote for that identity. Every time you skip a needless purchase and move that money to investments, you are that person a little more. Over time, hundreds of small votes build an unshakable identity. So right now, before this video ends, I want you to say this out loud. I am someone who builds wealth. Simple, maybe a little uncomfortable, but powerfully real. Your brain believes what you tell it repeatedly. Tell it who you're becoming.
All right, you've learned the psychology, you understand the math, now it's time for your action plan. 5 steps, starting today. No excuses. Step 1. Spend 30 minutes doing a spending audit. Go through your last month's bank statement. Categorize everything. Needs, wants, subscriptions, impulse buys. Just seeing the numbers clearly without judgment is step 1. Step 2. Set up your emergency fund. Open a high-yield savings account if you don't have one. Set a target, 3 months of essential expenses. Start contributing to it automatically every payday. Even $25 per week matters. Step 3. Apply the 50-30-20 rule. Or if that's too much right now, start with a simpler version, 80-20. Spend 80, save 20, or even 90-10 if you need to. Just make savings non-negotiable. Step 4. Start investing, even small amounts. Look into your employer's pension scheme or open a stocks and shares ISA, UK, Roth IRA, US, or equivalent in your country. Choose a simple, low-cost index fund. Invest regularly, monthly, no matter what. Step 5. Automate everything. Automation removes willpower from the equation. Set automatic transfers to savings and investments on payday. Before you even see the money, it's working for your future. These steps are not sexy, they're not complicated, they won't make you rich overnight. But here's the truth. Wealth is never built overnight. It's built in quiet, consistent, unsexy decisions made month after month, year after year. Start today. Even one step.
I want to close with a question that I genuinely want you to sit with. Close your eyes for a moment. Or don't, you're watching a video, but follow me mentally. Imagine you're 65 years old. You're looking back at your life, and you're looking at your finances. In one scenario, you changed nothing. You kept spending the way you spend today. You kept telling yourself you'd start investing next year. Lifestyle inflation ate every raise, debt quietly grew, and at 65, you're still working. Not because you love it, but because you have to. In the other scenario, you made small changes, starting now. You started investing $150 per month at 10% return. You avoided lifestyle inflation. You built assets instead of liabilities. And at 65, you have approximately $339,000 from just that one habit, plus everything else you built along the way. You have choices. You have freedom. Two futures, same starting point, different decisions. Which 65-year-old do you want to be? Because that person, your future self, is being created by the decisions you make today, this week, this month. Not dramatically, not in one giant moment, but quietly, consistently, in thousands of small choices that don't feel important in the moment, but are compounding silently in the background. Your future self is counting on the version of you watching this video right now. Don't let them down. The next step is yours to take.
So let's bring this all together. Why do most people stay poor? Not because of bad luck, not because the system is rigged against them, not because they're not smart enough, but because of psychology, because of invisible mental patterns that were never explained to them. The present bias that makes spending feel better than saving. Hedonic adaptation that makes every purchase feel exciting until it doesn't. Lifestyle inflation that eats every raise before it can build anything. The scarcity mindset that keeps us stuck in short-term crisis mode. Social comparison that makes us spend to impress people we don't even care about. And the solution? Understand compound interest. Start early. Automate savings. Buy assets instead of liabilities. Shift your identity from spender to investor. Apply the 50-30-20 rule. And most importantly, start. You don't need a six-figure salary. You don't need to be a financial expert. You just need to understand these principles and make different decisions, one decision at a time. If this video helped you, please share it with one person who needs to hear it. One friend, one family member, one colleague. Because the greatest gift you can give someone is financial understanding they were never taught in school. Hit subscribe if you want more content like this, and drop a comment below. Tell me, what was your biggest takeaway from this video? I read every single one. Thank you for watching, and remember, your financial future isn't decided by your past, it's decided by what you do starting today.